Good afternoon. This is Quintus Curtius, and welcome back to the Fortress of the Mind podcast. And in this episode, I'm going to be answering a question I received last night by email. And it was an interesting email, and I'm going to read it to you a little bit, and then we'll go into a discussion of his issue. His issue, basically, the subject of what the question is how can I generate an aggressive spirit? Am I lacking an aggressive spirit? And if so, how can I generate that spirit? So this was the email. Let me read the email to you. He says, Dear Quintus, I am a 16-year-old wrestler, currently on my high school's team. Reading about the great men of ancient and modern times, I bought, read, and keep coming back to Pantheon and Stoic paradoxes, inspired me to toughen up a while ago, and now I can safely say that I can be among the most mentally tough people in any room I walk into, although I still have a way to go personally for myself. Well, good work, man. Good work. Thank you very much for reading the books. I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you've been able to incorporate those lessons in your life. And the second paragraph of his email, he says this. He says, the only place where I and most other wrestlers, and to a greater extent most males my age, falter is that I have trouble generating the aggressive spirit needed to dominate on the mat. My technique has picked up, my willpower is almost wrought iron, and I'm stronger than most others, but I'm still missing the aggression to get my setups and shots, so I get taken down by people I should be beating. It might have something to do with my maladaptive daydreaming, which I'm also working on. I don't have anything to offer yet, but I would be grateful if you could write on that subject in the future. Respectfully, Reader. All right. Well, thank you, Reader. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the good the words that you've said about the books and that you found them to be useful. Let me break down your question into the observations that I see. Well, the first thing I see, for a 16-year-old wrestler on your high school's team, I can just tell you right away, just from reading this email, that you're a man of great focus. The email is written in a very articulate way. It's very structured. He uses terms that you can really tell a well-read person would use. He basically talks about maladaptive dreaming. He even spells wrought iron correctly with a hyphen between the two words. Little things like that tell me this is a guy who's focused. And if a 16-year-old guy is reading Stoic paradoxes, that's impressive. If a 16-year-old guy can read my Pantheon or my Stoic paradoxes, he's doing very, very well, because those are not books for beginners. Okay, my books are not normally for beginners. Maybe 37 is, but some of the others take, they take some effort. The reward is far more than what you put in, but these are not books that are designed for knuckleheads. Okay, so good work. So I know that you've got focus, and I know that you are, like, I believe you when you say that you have willpower, and that you are one of the strongest people in any room that you walk into. But the question you've got is basically what you're asking is, what Reader is asking is, he's basically saying, how can I generate an aggressive spirit? I'm losing to people that I should be winning against. And he wants to know, why is that? Why is that happening? Is there something I'm doing wrong? Is there something with my state of mind? Is there something with the frame that I'm incorporating, during my matches that is preventing me from getting success? And let me talk about that a little bit. The first thing I noticed when I read this email was I'm not sure that the word aggression is the right word. I'm not sure that... Now, aggression is important, absolutely important. It is important to have an aggressive spirit. But the problem is the average person confuses aggression with rage. They confuse aggression with just bullheaded, blind, head pounding, than with focused, intense effort. And there is a difference. Okay? Aggression is just a force. Okay? It's a vector. Aggression is a vector. And we know from physics that a vector is a quantity that has a value and also has a direction. It has a tangible numeric quantity, but it also has a direction. That's a vector. That's all aggression is. Think of aggression as a vector. Now, what I think instead of aggression that I think you're lacking, because I don't really think that you're lacking in aggression. What I think is, I think there's something inhibiting you from succeeding. There's some sort of mental block going on in your way of thinking that's preventing you from beating the type of people that you should be beating. And we all have to deal with this. I'm not a wrestler myself, but I am and have been involved in situations that involve one-on-one, combat. Basically, as a trial attorney, I was a military man in my previous career, and now I'm a trial attorney, and in the trials that I do, it's war, basically. It's simply a form of rhetorical war. You've got to prepare a case, you've got an adversary, you basically have to cross-examine their witnesses or examine your own witnesses, and you've got to argue, you've got to convince, and you've got to tear down the argument of the other side. Okay, it's a stressful, it's an aggressive, focused type of career. So I do understand what you're talking about. So what I think that instead of what you need as aggression, you speak of aggression, you think you need that. I think really what you might be lacking is something involving focus. Okay, there's some sort of focus problem going on. Now, what is focus? Well, I can only talk about my own experience and my own definition of this term. But focus, to me, is that zone that you get in when it comes time for game time, when it comes time for the rubber meeting the road, when it comes time for the match, when it comes time for the trial, when you've got to get in front of the group and you've got to advocate, you've got to do your thing, you've got to enter into the arena. That's when you need your focus. That's when you have to be in the zone. And one of the things that I'm very lucky about, I've just noticed with myself as I've gotten older, is I've never really had a problem getting in that zone. I've never really had a problem with stage fright or with preparation or fear or any of those problems. Now, I know people say, everybody's afraid, and yeah, you're nervous, you're concerned, but for some reason, whenever the curtain went up on the arena, I was always able to channel that focus, and there's almost like this Zen-like calm that comes over you. And I've been very grateful for that. It must be some sort of personality thing or some sort of gift, or I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I used to think everybody had that, and apparently everybody doesn't have that. All right, but that doesn't mean that everybody can't improve. It doesn't mean that everybody can't learn and benefit. So you've got to try to cultivate this focus, this Zen-like calm that comes over you. When you're going up against an opponent, you don't need aggression. Aggression can very easily trip you up. Aggression can turn into blind rage. And when I hear blind rage, when I hear people talking about aggression, what does that say to me? That says to me passion. Okay, that says passion. And passion can be your enemy when you're in the arena. Passion can be your enemy when you're in the arena. I'll say that again. There was a movie that came out in the 90s, very, very good movie, and I would encourage you to see it. Very good movie. And it was called The Zero Effect. It was one of these independent films. Didn't get a lot of publicity. And it starred the great Bill Pullman and also Ben Stiller. Basically what this was is, I think the movie came out in 96 or 97. I don't remember exactly the year, but you can look it up. And the movie essentially was an updating of the Sherlock Holmes myth. Sherlock Holmes is one of the most well-known characters in fiction. And this was sort of a modern, Americanized updating of the Sherlock Holmes story. And basically they made him out to be almost this sort of dysfunctional, this socially dysfunctional guy who had all these weird problems, but he was a genius. And yet when he was in his zone, when he was in his element, he was incredibly smooth. He could do all these sorts of incredible feats of disguise and deception and all sorts of incredible stuff. Anyway, one of his sayings was, passion is the enemy of precision. Passion is the enemy of precision. That may have come right from the original Conan Doyle writings. I don't know, but I do know it's in the movie The Zero Effect. And I'll throw that saying out to you because, as you know, I like movie quotes. I watch a lot of movies. I like good movies, and I recommend this one. And if nothing else, you can get a good quote out of it, which is that passion is the enemy of precision. What he means by that is this. When your passions are engaged, when you're keying off of emotion rather than cold, hard calculation or reason, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to let your guard down. You're going to slip. And so that's why aggression, I think, is the wrong word. And you clarified later in an email that you probably meant more intensity than aggression, and I get that. But I think what's going on here with your situation is that you've got some sort of block. There's something getting inside your loop somehow. Maybe you're bringing it from home. Maybe you're bringing it from school. Maybe you've got problems, with family, friends, girlfriend, whatever. Because this is how performers are. Athletes are performers. They're high intensity performers, and they can bring things with them into the arena that happen to them outside. And I've seen it happen before, and it's important to identify what that is and to purge it out of your system before you bring it into the arena. So again, that Zen-like focus is what we should be aiming for. Now, how do you get that Zen-like focus? Well, for me, there's several different traits and qualities that I think need to be looked at. The first one is preparation. Okay, and I know that should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. You are going to be the most confident in the world if you know that you've prepared for your event. Preparation trumps everything, man, at least for me. If I'm going into court, if I'm going into the arena, I'm going into battle, if I know, if I've walked the terrain, if I've seen the enemy, if I've dealt with the personalities on the other side, if I've done my preparation, I've got my notes, I've got my trial books, I've got my cases, I've got my stuff laid out in folders, organized for easy access, I've got my arguments written out, some of it memorized. If I've done that preparation work, I'm already going to be in the zone, or I'm going to be close to being in the zone. It just comes automatically. And that's the same thing that you need to do as a wrestler. You need to know that you've done the physical training, you've done the conditioning, you've done the diet exercise, or the diet work ahead of time. You've conditioned your body. And I know wrestling is a very, very high intensity sport. It takes a very high level of commitment. Again, I'm not a wrestler myself, but I do have friends who were wrestlers or currently are involved in martial arts that are similar to that, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where you use grappling and things like that, and it's a very it's a very high intensity sport, and that preparation is going to serve you in good stead. And then the second thing you've got to do is tune out the distractions. What you might be lacking, and again, I'm just saying might, because I don't know the details of all your entire situation, but there might be some distractor going on. Whether it's a mental distraction or a physical distraction, there may be some glitch or some splinter in your mind that's preventing you from putting one step in front of the other. And it could be anything. And I'm just going to throw out, maybe there's some inner fear that you have of success. Maybe there is some inner fear that you have of advancing to the next level, because for athletes, it's a lot more common than you might think to be afraid of success. It's very comfortable to be in a certain category or to be in a certain level. And it can be scary sometimes to have to advance beyond that, because you've got to push yourself now into a different category. You're going to be pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone. And for some people, that can be very scary, and it often goes untalked about, but it's true. And it's the same thing with other fields of endeavor that involve conflict. Some people just are comfortable in their little zone and they don't want to get outside of it. So that might be what's going on here. There might be something out there holding you back, preventing you from getting to where you need to be to get beyond your current situation. And I think you know that. I mean, the impression I get from your email is that there's something going on. There's some sort of mental block there, but you don't really know how to go about solving it. Well, my suggestion would be this. Identify what that splinter in your mind is. Find out what that is and take steps to remove it. Again, it could be a personal issue going on in your life. So maybe some conflict with parents, friends, family, girlfriend, whatever. Okay? It could be many different things. Maybe you don't like your coach. Maybe you don't like some other guys in your team. I don't know. Okay? But I think from reading your email, I can just tell that you have the ability to have the focus. I have no doubt about that. I mean, if you wrote this email to me, which I have no reason to think you didn't, and if you're 16 years old, that's pretty impressive. So I know that I believe you when you say that you're a man of very, very strong willpower. So the good news is that you have the raw materials. You can do it. I mean, it's clear to me just from reading what you've written that you can do this. All that matters now is removing that pebble in your shoe. You've got a pebble in your shoe. You're like that guy who's walking down the road or the sidewalk, and you've got something that's causing you to slow down. You've got something. It's a splinter in your mind or a pebble in your shoe, and you've got to find out what it is and get rid of it and continue on with the focus. Again, you want to be in that zone, that Zen-like zone, where you've combined preparation, intensity, tuning out of all distractions and inner voices or fears that hold you back. That's what you want. You want that Zen-like calm that comes from preparation, intensity, and the tuning out of all distractions. So if you can focus on that, I think you'll be taking another step forward in getting to where you want to go. So hopefully that helps. This will end our podcast for today. I'm Quintus Curtius, and this was brought to you again courtesy of Fortress of the Mind Productions. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, I would ask you to go to iTunes and rate me there on iTunes. And if you have bought one of my books, I would ask you to go to Amazon and rate me there so that others can find me. I appreciate it. And until next time, this is Quintus Curtius. Good night.